Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see a brief history of Bible translation from Greek to English. The process of translating the Bible from Greek into other languages began somewhere around AD 170. And the first language New Testament was translated into Syriac, and this is the language spoken in Damascus. Ironically, this is the very place Saul went to persecute the church, and this was the first language which had the scriptures in their own native tongue after the Greek speakers. And later on, Bible translation spread from Syria into Armenia, Georgia, Samarkand, and beyond that. The Septuagint was almost always the source used for Old Testament passages at the beginning stage. The Septuagint is a Hebrew to Greek translation that was completed around 130 BC for Greek speaking Jews. And this was the version Paul mostly used when quoting from the Old Testament. First, we have the Jerome and the Latin Vulgate, that is around 380 AD. Efforts were made so that the scriptures were available to ordinary people. And so the Pope commissioned his secretary Jerome to create a new translation in Latin. And Jerome learned Hebrew for this case, and he was able to access all the biblical texts in both Hebrew and Greek. And Jerome finished the product which we call as the Vulgate Bible. And many of our biblical terms in English, such as scripture, salvation, justification, and regeneration, all come from this version. And the Vulgate Latin Bible became the standard used by the Roman Catholic Church for nearly 1,000 years. Then comes John Wycliffe and the first English Bible. Efforts were made to translate the Bible into Old English, that is the Anglo-Saxon English, and these efforts began in the 8th century. And the first, it started with the Book of Psalms and then the Gospel of John. Other parts were brought to a temporary halt with the Norman invasion of England in 1066. In the 14th century, Oxford teacher and priest John Wycliffe, he began translating the Bible to Middle English. His followers completed the task, and nearly 200 copies of his manuscript have survived. Unfortunately, the leaders of the church thought that only learned scholars and men of intelligence should have access to the Bible, and consequently, 44 years after Wycliffe's death, the Catholic Church officially excommunicated him, and his body was dug up, burnt, and dumped into the river. John Wycliffe's version spread through Europe, inspiring the zest priest and philosopher Jan Hus and others to produce Bible translations in Hungarian and Bohemian. As a result, in 1415, Hus was also declared a heretic and burnt at the stake. William Tyndale and the first printed English Bible comes next. With the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, Bible translation changed radically. William Tyndale was an English chaplain, tutor, and scholar, and he worked on the first printed English translations of the New Testament in 1526. William Tyndale coined many common phrases including land of the living, the parting of the ways, apple of my eye, and he worded the familiar verses, fight the good fight, and the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak. The word at one meant was his invention, and his use of the archery term for missing the mark to sin was ingenious. Sadly, of the 3,000 copies of the New Testament Tyndale printed, only 2 have survived till date due to the Catholic Church of England's active suppression and also burning of the books. All the other copies were burnt. And around 1529, Tyndale began a translation of the Old Testament in Europe. By 1535, he had finished the Pentateuch and 9 other Old Testament books when he was captured and burnt at the stake. His last words are reported to be, "Lord, open the King of England's eyes." And then comes Coverdale, Matthews, and the Great Bible. Mills Coverdale continued William Tyndale's effort and finished the printing of the first complete English Bible in 1535. Not being very fluent in Greek and Hebrew, he used Latin and German translations as well as Tyndale's unpublished works, including his partial Old Testament. In the preface of the Bible, Coverdale praised King Henry VIII, who, on account of his new queen Anne Boleyn, had split with the Catholic Church of Rome and set up the Church of England. The Coverdale Bible was the first Bible licensed by King Henry VIII for use in England. Later, Coverdale was authorized to translate the Great Bible of Henry VIII in 1539. John Rogers, a friend and editor of Tyndale, incorporated Coverdale's work and produced the Matthew's Bible in 1537. the new Queen Mary went on a rampage to return England to Catholicism, and Rogers was burnt at the stake for being a Protestant in 1555. Then we have the Geneva and the Catholic Reims Dua versions. Because of the persecution, hundreds of Protestants they ran away to Germany and Switzerland, and especially to Geneva, where eventually the Geneva Bible was produced in 1560. This contemporary English version accomplished many firsts, like it was the first to use a team of translators, number of verses, have commentaries in the side margins, and contain maps and illustrations. The Geneva Bible was the most accurate version at the time and became the primary Bible of the 16th century Protestantism. When Queen Bloody Mary was succeeded by her sister Elizabeth I, an updated version of the Great Bible was created as an attempt to compete with the popular Geneva Bible. A panel of bishops prepared his translation in 1568, aptly calling it the Bishop's Bible. Nevertheless, the Geneva Bible continued to be the most popular version in England. Then finally in 1582, the Catholic Church, who had fought so hard to keep Latin as the only language of the Bible, beside its original sources of Hebrew and Greek, produced its own complete English translation from the Latin Vulgate Bible called the Reims Dua Bible, the King James Version of 1611. In 1603, King James IV of Scotland assumed the throne of England as King James I of England, and during an exculpatory conference at Hampton Court, it was decided that a new Bible translation needed to be made to replace Elizabeth I's Bishop's Bible. Problems among Protestants, Catholics, and new denominations were emerging, and the goal was to make a scholarly version of the Bible for all Christians to be used. A group of 47 to 54 translators were gathered and given 15 rules as guidance. The Bible was not to include Geneva Bible type commentaries. The translators were to base their work on the Bishop's Bible, but the other major English versions were also considered, and the whole was corrected from original Hebrew, Greek, and early Latin text. The translators were divided into 6 companies, with each company assigned specific books. Completed translations were sent to other companies for review, and the final needed agreement among all translators. The King James Version Bible was not immediately popular, but in 1660, with the restoration of the English monarchy under King Charles II, public fondness for the king was rekindled. The KJV, that is King James Version, eventually gained widespread popularity in England, the Anglo-Indian Church, and the American colonies. And thus, the Bible was translated from Greek to the English. And if you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.